Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Friendly Academy. Now in this video, I will show you how to build a web scraping application and run it in a container. And for that, we are going to use AWS ECS service, and we will also use AWS Fargate mode so that we can get the benefit of serverless compute. Now there are various ways that you can deploy your web scraping application. For example, let's say that you want to run this web scraping in a schedule. So one option would be to use a Lambda function and then have it invoked in a schedule with CloudWatch event. Or you can also use AWS Fargate task and have it run in a schedule as well. Now you can use either of these options, but in this case, I'm planning to use Puppeteer. And usually to scrape a web application, it takes some time, right? And as you know, the AWS Lambda, we are built with the execution time, and probably we would need to provide it more memory as well. So if you have like high memory and a long running function, then the cost will be higher. So for that reason, I thought of using AWS Fargate because the billing model for Fargate is different. So you can specify the vCPUs and the memory, and then you are not going to get billed for the execution time rather, right? So when we even compare the timing, you may find out that the cost for Fargate may be cheaper than Lambda function depending upon the execution time of your web scraping task. All right, so let's get started. Now, to provision our infrastructure in AWS, I'm going to use AWS CDK because there are multiple benefits to it, particularly when you are using AWS Fargate. So you can first install it, npm install-g AWS CDK, and I have it already. So I can do cdk -- version. Okay, so it is 2.142. And by the way, the node version that I use is node 20. So node 20 is there. All right. So I have node as well as AWS CDK CLI installed. Now, one of the reasons why I thought of using AWS CDK is that it has different level of constructs. Now, one of the constructs is level 2 constructs, and for our purposes, we would need a ECS cluster created, and inside that ECS cluster, I would need to create Fargate task and also have a scheduler to invoke this task in a schedule. Now, all these things can be accomplished with a simple constructor. So we have a level 2 construct for that. So that's why I thought of using AWS CDK rather than creating all these resources one by one using CloudFormation. Okay, so I'll show you what that construct is. But before that, let's create a CDK project. So right now I am in a folder, and inside this folder, I will do CDK init app, and I'm going to use the language as TypeScript. So let's use TypeScript. So the file shows up here, and it is still installing, but we can go to the bin folder, and this is the entry point really. So this is the entry point. So this is the place that our CDK application is going to start up. So here we have our application code in the library or the lib folder. So they have already created a file. If you go inside lib, so we have this Fargate web scraper stack. So here we require that particular file or import that module, and then we are going to execute it. So all our code goes in this file, Fargate web scraper tasks. So right now we have some boilerplate code. All right. So the first thing that we should do is to create a cluster or ECS container cluster. So let's go ahead and create that. So here I added this line of code, cluster ECS.cluster, and I'll call it this cluster name web scraper ECS cluster. Okay, so this is my cluster name, and as you can see, there are a couple of red squigglies. So first one is I need to import ECS from above. So this is that import statement. So we are going to import ECS from AWS CDK lib AWS ECS. So now this is gone, and now we also have a read squiggly on the VPC. By the way, when you're creating ECS cluster, you have to run it inside a VPC, or at least like connect it with a VPC. So that's why we need to associate the VPC. By the way, I don't have a VPC or the virtual private cloud. So let's go ahead and create a VPC. And with CDK, it's quite straightforward. So I'm going to create a VPC like this. As you can see, I have this VPC, and for that we are using ec2.vpc, and I can give it a name, web scraper VPC, right? And then I can provide the additional configuration. By the way, let me import EC2 up here. Okay, so I imported EC2, so I can use ec2.vpc method, and then I can provide the configuration, like how many number of AZs that this VPC should spans across. So here I just add only one availability zone, and then the subnet configuration. Now you can run containers and connect it to private subnets, but for this example I'm going to create a public subnet. So in the subnet configuration, I'm creating a public subnet with the CIDR of 24. That means I think you can have 256 IP addresses within this public subnet. So that's where our task will pick up IP address and then start running. So we have the VPC, and now I associate it with the cluster, web scraper VPC ECS cluster. Next, let me clear this first. So next, let's go ahead and create our schedule Fargate service. So I just paste in some code. So this bit of code. So here I'm going to use schedule Fargate task helper in the ECS patterns. So in order to use that, I need to import these ECS patterns. So let's import it first. So I import ECS pattern from AWS CDK lib / AWS ECS patterns. So we have that, and I'm using scheduled Fargate task. I'll call it the logical name scheduled web scraper task. Yeah, and I'm associating the cluster that I created with it. So the cluster is added, and then I can provide some options for the task. So this task is going to be run on a schedule. So that's where, like down here, I set it as like I want to execute this task in every 1 minute. So I'm using this rate expression. So rate in every 1 minute. So if you want to run it in 10 minutes, you can do that, or 1 hour, you can do that. Like, and for this example, I want to run it in every 1 minute. So I'm setting up that schedule. So why this is upscaling? Okay, so I need to import that upscaling here. So for that, I need to import this auto scaling. Okay, yeah, in AWS auto scaling, we have this upscaling export. Now that red squiggle is gone. Okay, so our task will run in every 1 minute, and the subnet selection is our public subnet from our VPC, and then I need to specify some image related information. So in order to run this task, we would need a Docker image. So I have to tell CDK from where it can find out my Docker file and build the Docker image. So in the image attribute, I'm using ecs.containerimage from asset. So I'm going to point it to an asset, that means a Docker file, and then it's going to build first locally, and then it's going to push it to AWS ECR, or Elastic Container Registry, and then use that image to create this Fargate task. Okay, so what I do here is I'm letting it know where my Docker file is. So I'm using path. Okay, let me import that path as well. Okay, so path.resolve, and so right now I'm in the lib folder. So I'm going to go ahead and create a folder called src, where it will include all my application code related data, or files rather. So in this source file, so let's go ahead and create a Docker file. Okay, so this is the Docker file that it's going to use to build my Docker image. So when I do CDK deploy, it build the image first locally and then push it to the ECR, and then it will reference it when creating the task. Okay, so this is the Docker file, and I'll also share this with you guys. So this is the Docker file I use, and I'm planning to use Puppeteer, right? So in order to run Puppeteer in a container, it's a little bit of a challenging task as well. So you would need various dependencies. So that's why I'm using these dependencies right here. So I'm using like various of those dependencies. And I'm using Node 20, one of the Node 20 versions. Yes, and after installing the dependency that Puppeteer requires, and then I'm gonna copy all the the source files. So these two dots means copy the files from my local machine to the container work directory into here, right? Okay, so what files? Right now I only have a Docker file, and let's create this app.js file. So I'm going to create app.js. So here I have a self-executing function. So in this particular function, what it does is it prints when it starts executing starting log message, and then I'm gonna launch a Puppeteer browser, a headless browser rather. So that's where I will use Puppeteer. So that to use, I need to import Puppeteer from up here. So let me require it here. So now I can use Puppeteer to launch a headless browser, and then I will create a page and then navigate to the blog site. So here I'm using Enly Academy blog site. So we will navigate to Enly Academy, and then we are going to take a screenshot. So we do page.screenshot, and I will do a full page screenshot as well. And then I will print another message, Puppeteer script executed successfully. So that would be it, right? If there's any errors, we are going to close the browser as well after that. And by the way, later on I will also show you how to upload that screenshot to a S3 bucket as well. But for now, this is our Puppeteer script, and this is our Docker file. And now we would also need a package.json. So let's go to lib and src, which is inside this particular folder, and I will do npm init-y to create a package.json file. Here we have the package.json. Okay, so in my Docker file, I have a command instruction to run npm install. So I'll copy over the package.json, and then I'll do a npm install. And after installation is complete, only then I will do node app.js, which will execute this script, right? So I need Puppeteer. So let's add it in the package.json as a dependency. Dependencies, and I'm gonna add the Puppeteer here. Okay, I think we are all set. So let's run this file locally, without Docker, and see if we are navigating to this page, and then print out these log messages just to make sure. So I'll go to right now I am inside this source folder, so I have access to app.js. So I will do node app.js. Oops, I got an error right away. Cannot find the module Puppeteer. Okay, so that's the reason. Reason is we haven't done npm install inside this source folder. This is not required for Docker, but if you want to run it and see locally without Docker, then this can come handy. So let me do npm install Puppeteer at 22.9.0. All right, so the installation is complete. Let's do again node app.js. So I see this starting message, and Let's see the next message. Yeah, the Puppeteer script executed successfully. That's the last message. So let me turn off headless, and then maybe we will see it. There you go. It goes to the NLA website, and then it captures a screenshot. There you go. It captures the screenshot, and then yes, so it prints this script executed successfully. All right, so our Docker file or our application is working fine. I'll remove these node modules as well. Okay, and now let me go ahead and build this. So in order to build, we are going to use CDK, because as you can see now, our Fargate schedule task is referencing that source folder. So image is built from asset. Which asset? So it's going to source folder, and whatever the files that is there in the source folder will be used to build the image. Okay, so this is that image it just captured in a previous case. You see that all the blogs that was there in the NLA Academy. Yep. So there are various blogs. Okay. Let me just remove that one. Now, before we do CDK deploy, let's see the other configuration. So memory limit MB. So I'm associating 512 MB for this Fargate task, and the environment. So for environment right now, I don't need this information, because I am only calling Puppeteer and taking a screenshot. Yes, upscaling is also fine, and I think the rest is good. Okay. So let's go ahead and deploy this. So I will go to so right now I am in the root level. You can see the bin folder, lib folder, so on and so forth. I also have the CDK JSON. So let's do CDK deploy and see if it deploys properly. I think for the most part we have to bootstrap CDK. Yes, so we need to bootstrap CDK. So it says please run bootstrap. So let's bootstrap CDK. So this will go ahead and create IAM roles and the other resources that CDK needs to deploy resources. Okay, here I got an error. I think I deployed it previously, and there's a conflict to it. So let me deploy to different region. So I'll go to the bin Fargate and then uncomment this environment and include the account details and also the region. I want to deploy it to EU West 1. Okay. So let's bootstrap again. All right, so it is bootstrapping. All right, so the bootstrap is complete. Now I can do CDK deploy. Now it will take some time because it needs to build the image. Now, by the way, it is using Docker engine that is running local to build the image. So in order to follow along, you have to make sure that your Docker is running. Let's say I'm using here Docker for desktop, and you have to make sure that Docker daemon is running. All right, guys, so it is deployed, but I just realized we need to do a small change, which is earlier, like when you're testing locally, I set this headless to false. So we need to set it to true again, because we don't want a web browser to open in our container, right? So that is not necessary. Puppeteer can be run in a headless mode as well. So do that change and we can redeploy. All right, so it is deployed now. Now let me go to AWS. Now this is my AWS console, and I'll go to Elastic Container Service, or ECS. And here I see the cluster I created, which is this Fargate web scraper cluster. And now I see there are some 2 pending tasks. So I can just go into it. So this is that Fargate cluster service, and here I will go to the task section. So now I see one of the tasks is running, so I can click into it. So this is that running task, and I can go to the logs because I printed a couple of logs. See, now I see that starting log. So after a while, I hope I will see that Puppeteer script executed successfully log as well. So let's do a refresh. There you go. Now I see the Puppeteer script executed successfully as well. So it seems like our task is now running, and let's see when is it going to run again. Now you can see the pending task. There's one pending task. So I will just go look. There's this pending task is waiting to be run. So this is my schedule. So the task will be spun up in every 1 minute. You can see this one, and it's turned on. So if I want to update it, you can go ahead and click update, and then right now it's running in every 1 minute, so you can change it every hour or day, so on and so forth. All right, so this is what I want to show you guys, and after you complete, you can destroy the stack, otherwise that will keep running in every 1 minute. CDK destroy, yes, and that will destroy your stack. So that will remove your cluster, VPC, and everything. So that's the beauty of infrastructure as code service like CDK and CloudFormation, Serverless, and so on and so forth. Okay, so thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you like this one, and I'll see you in another video.